with any system, you can have the best system in the world, but if the users don't like using them, then it's the worst system.
Welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. Today, we have a fantastic guest joining us who took a little bit of a different path towards hospitality. He didn't go through culinary school or work in restaurants. He's actually a guy with an accounting background that became a real estate developer and then a resort operator who ended up buying a resort in Tennessee that needed some completion, a little bit of work on it. And that with that came kind of a rundown restaurant. And so his partner had suggested, hey, let's lease this out. But he said, no, you know what? We're going to take this on and we're going to do it. So joining me today is Amir Harpaz, and he took like I said, pretty much a rundown restaurant and turned it into a 210-seat restaurant that has served upwards of 1,600 people on busy days doing 8 table turns. And we're going to talk about how he did that, how he got there, and some of the tools he used to reach that level of success from rundown to 8 turns a day. So with that, Amir, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Been excited about coming on the show.
Well, we're excited to have you. I hopefully did your background a little bit of justice in that intro, but tell us a little bit more about the story and how you went from accounting to resort development to now being a restaurant owner.
Yes, so I studied accounting at university, and I started my career at Coopers & Lybrand, the accounting firm, which then merged with Pricewaterhouse and became PricewaterhouseCoopers. Worked at the in the UK. That's where I started my career, in the United Kingdom, and worked there. Then a few years later, I got a call from my dad, who's been a real estate developer in the United States, telling me, hey, my partner passed away in his sleep. I need your help. Time to pack up and come help your old man. So I packed up my gear, came back to the United States, started working with my dad in outdoor resort development. He was one of the pioneers of RV parks back in the day, back in the 80s.
Okay.
And, taking some of my backgrounds from PricewaterhouseCoopers, I worked there not just in pure accounting, but I did large system implementations, so I was really, I felt really comfortable with implementing IT systems at very, very large scale. I worked on some massive accounts when I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I remember back in 2004, implemented the first reservation system. Online reservation system was unheard of in our space back then. And kind of like, I don't know, the company just grew, and we went from a small shop in Southwest Florida. Now we span over 3 states, developing and operating these outdoor resorts primarily, now marinas and F&B as well. And as you had mentioned, we had partnered with the Cherokee Indian tribe on this rundown resort in Tennessee, and to turn it into something really, really upscale. And it came with a broken, rundown restaurant that was scary to even walk through, Chris. When during the renovations, when we tore the walls down, we found skeletons of otters in the walls. It was just that bad. And my partner's saying, Amir, none of us have F&B operation experience, and how are we going to do it? Most restaurants fail. It's like, do we really want to get there? And I said, guys, if we're building this resort, it has a marina, a water park, people staying. Do you guys feel it's important to control the entire experience? What if we bring in an operator, and it does? Now we have a long-term contract with that individual or entity, and then they don't operate the restaurant at the level that we want it to be operating, or it's going to create. I just felt there were possibilities for conflicts. Once, even though you see a lot of hotels have independent restaurants inside, I felt really strongly about controlling the entire experience. And I said, you know what, let's try to do that. So it was very, very scary at first, incredibly scary. I literally knew nothing, but I felt very comfortable with processes, systems, and obviously numbers, looking at P&Ls, cost of goods sold, feel incredibly, my stomping ground when you give me a balance sheet and a P&L.
Right.
I know how to look. So I wasn't afraid there, but like, how do you create a menu? How do you hire staff? How do you operate a restaurant? I knew none of that. So we hired actually at first a a restaurant consultant out of Nashville
Hmm.
called Salt and Cayenne, who really I attribute a lot of my artist success. He took me by the hand and literally said, okay, here's who we're going to hire. We're going to hire the GM. Here's how we're going to do the kitchen. Here's how we're going to do the seating area. Here's how we're going to do the menu. Here's your training manual for staff. He really, really taught us the basics. And he actually helped me find my GM, who's since then became more than a GM. He's a big, big, crucial part of our entire organization now. That's how it started. And, the first year was kind of rough, very rough, to be honest with you. Um, but we got better.
Hmm.
Second year was way, way better. And the third year was just a phenomenal success. We replaced the entire tech stack. We've made so many mistakes with the initial technology that we implemented. We learned a lot in the first year. By the end of the first year, we were like, we're a seasonal business. I forgot to
Hmm.
mention. Come the winter, we shut down for 5 months. So, we just couldn't wait to shut down just to replace, get out of the initial POS and the tech stack that we've chosen. We felt we made a lot of bad choices there. And once we did that, and my GM, by the way, the guy that runs my entire food and beverage operation, he's a true like restaurant guy.
Hmm.
He worked for Joe's Crab Shack. He opened Miller Ale Houses. So he knows how to operate big, fast-paced bar environments, which is what we are. Our restaurant, I forgot to mention, we're
Yeah.
a waterfront, lakefront restaurant with boat dock, a lot. It's bar food,
Hmm.
it's live music, and so he did a lot of things the old school way. He used to, Aloha from Miller and
Hmm.
Joe Crab Shack, but I said let's go all in. Let's automate the entire back of the house, inventory management, payroll, pit pooling, counting. Let's eliminate all the human touch from that. And he said, way bigger operations don't do that. Why are you so like, implementing all these? I said, I feel so comfortable about systems. I'm going to help you. And that was a massive uplift. It was 7 months of like replacing every little system and implementing. It was taxing.
Well, I'm sure it was taxing. And I want to spend some time on this because I think one of the things that you just pointed out that is very true in this industry is that a lot of folks that have been in it forever, the restaurant industry just historically has not placed a lot of emphasis on systems. And so your outside experience said, hey, we need these systems, and is kind of contrary to how a lot of people historically have thought within the industry. Now, you mentioned that the first year was really, really rough, and you couldn't wait for that seasonal closure. Because like you said, you guys are open or closed, I'm sorry, about 5 months out of the year.
Correct.
And so what after your first year, right, with a consultant guiding you through and a GM that has just come on, what made that disastrous and where did you see in your analysis like, hey, I need a system here, I need a system there. I'm sure you needed a lot of systems, but how did you kind of go about that and prioritize that?
So, so if it's okay for me to mention names,
Yeah.
I'll mention names. So, so our food suppliers, US Foods, which we
Hmm.
love, and they, when we partnered with them, they said, it's like we have various technology partners that if you go through us, you'll get like this white glove treatment from those vendors. To an extent, that's true. But, with any system, you could have the best system in the world, but if the users don't like to using them, then
Right.
it's the worst system in the world. So we went with Toast initially. Great system to use. It really, really is a good system.
Hmm.
And easy to use. The servers loved it. But then we had issues how it integrated into the various inventory management systems. We went with Extra Chef first from Toast. We
Hmm.
didn't like that. Literally halfway through the season, I yanked it out, brought in Craftable, which is again a really, really good system. But our users just like refused to use it.
Hmm.
We had to like chase them. And it became apparent to me. It's like, why am I wasting all this money on a system that nobody wants to use? And because they don't want to use them, it's not really working well. So with Toast, we had operational issues because we're where we are. Our Wi-Fi goes down a lot, and their offline modes caused us to lose a ton of tickets. And it would shut us down in the middle of the day for 4 or 5 hours trying to recover tickets. And then they were telling us, oh, you got to run the entire restaurant on a single terminal. Just so you understand, you have every shift, we have 25, 30 people. How do I run when you have 20 servers on a single terminal? It's
Yeah.
impossible.
It's going to take them 30 minutes just to ring in an order.
Yeah, we have handhelds going to
Hmm.
boats. Just it's a very, very fast-paced restaurant. Like you said, we serve on weekends up to 1,600 people. I mean, it's a zoo. We have tables, we have people standing, we have boats docking, and all this is orchestrated. You got to
Hmm.
serve all these people. The kitchen, I mean, our kitchen is like the pace in the kitchen is unbelievable. It's not even a big kitchen. The amount of food it produces on 4th of July produces 15,000 items. 15,000. It's like how? I just don't know how. On that weekend, 4th of July weekend, 15,000 items. It's just unbelievable.
That is unbelievable.
So we went into the second season
Hmm.
with Toast because at that point it was just too hard to come off of technology platform. We had like really menu issues in the first year and some employee issues and we used 7 shifts to manage the pool tipping and that was taxing as well. At the end of each shift you got to take everything out of Toast even though they're supposedly integrated, they were not, and then spend another an hour and a half putting everything manually into 7 shifts for the tip pooling. And then I never felt comfortable being, coming from an accounting background, the whole thing with internal controls. It's like, how can you take something manually and type it into another system? How do I know that you're not typing 5 instead of a 3?
Right.
And, and even if you are trying to type in correctly, there's human error. You cannot avoid that,
Well, and that's my biggest.
especially at 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah, and that's my biggest issue with kind of restaurant tech in general because it seems to either a lot of solutions don't integrate well, so then it's easier and more accurate a lot of times to do manual entry, but then you have all that human error because I mean, you and I'm sure have punched
Right.
in more numbers in a computer than most people, but it's real easy to hit the wrong number every once in a while.
And it happens because every month it's like things would not reconcile, and then now
Hmm.
your accounting department spends time. It's like, what's wrong here? And then payroll was another issue with
Hmm.
Toast. No payroll company wants to work with Toast because they have their own payroll solution. So being a resort, my payroll is not just F&B. I got
Right.
a marina, I got retail, I got lodging. So
Hmm.
now I had to do so much manual work bringing in all these departments. And then when things got really bad halfway through the second season with Toast, where the system would just go offline, we would lose so much money. And then they told us, you just need to retrain your staff. I said, you know what? It's not the right partnership here. And we went to US Food and said, hey, you need to help us get out of this contract. We're unhappy. And they told me, well, it's like, lucky you. We just signed up another technology vendor contract called SpotOn. You're willing to check him out? I said, anything, just bring him on. They didn't even have anybody in our area yet. So they gave us a rep from Nashville and we had a demo and it was like literally without even like going into depth I mean, we just felt so comfortable with the individuals, with the demo, with the people. And we were like, please just save us. And that relationship started there. And we knew exactly what we wanted then. And
Hmm.
we can start going now into all the integrations that I wanted. And it was a 7 months process with them integrating everything. But
And
it was just incredible.
not to cut you off, because I do want to spend some time and dive into that. But before we get there, I want to hit on one other thing because you do have a very unique situation in the fact that it's a restaurant and bar in a resort, but you also have this big marina piece to what's going on.
Yeah.
And when we talked before, one of the things I found absolutely fascinating is you've turned your restaurant slash bar into a wakeboarding destination of all things.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how do you make a restaurant slash bar into a place that wakeboarders now want to come all the time.
So, it actually, um, it just happened organically. It wasn't planned at all. So, we're located where in area where there's just a lot of boat manufacturers
Hmm.
not far from us, and they used to send their teams to stay in the cabins and do photo shoots for next year's like catalogs and just like social media shoots. And at the end of the day, they used to come to the mud puppy. And you think wakeboarders, world champions, but they were like tired. They were beat up,
Yeah.
and we would take care of them. We would round on us. Just like
Hmm.
smile, and it just kind of evolved. And then they would come back to us and say, "How can we, like, you guys are taking such good care of us? How can we repay you?" And it's like we said to them, just like say thank you on social, and they started like tagging us on social, and it went viral and exploded. And then all of a sudden, other teams are calling us, "Hey, we want to like come to where Harley Clifford, 8-time world champion, is like saying it's the best place in the world to wakeboard." And we have people, his fans are now calling us, "Hey, we want to come, stay." And it just evolved like that. And now we have like, it went from working with super athletes, working now with the boat manufacturers too. And that relationship kind of like exploded unplanned.
And to me, that's just it's the perfect example of just naturally falling into something because of where you are, but then leveraging it through customer service to drive a lot of explosive growth that other people never would have seen or taken advantage of.
Right, because it was never like that before. We took it over, and even the relationship with the boat manufacturers, like these athletes, it's like, let us introduce you to the boat manufacturers we work with. They would love to do something here, and just grew and grew and grew. And now it's like, wait till you see what we have planned for next year. We're even thinking of like, they want to take a piece of the restaurant and create like these unique activations of booth in the shapes of their boats and things like that.
That'd be really fun. And like I said, I just want to hit on that because to me, that's one of the coolest stories of organic growth marketing just that fell into somebody's lap. And you guys actually took advantage of it and made it work and have grown huge just by taking advantage of what was around you without trying to force anything weird.
Yeah, even our team was very young. We have,
Mhm.
just being, next to in a university town, we have, people from University of Tennessee, Maryville College. We're right outside of Knoxville. We have a lot of young people that were born with TikTok and Instagram in their hands. And then like, so, we had a marketing agency helping us with social, and I was doing a little bit. And then we sat one day and said, we have 55 servers ranging between 18 to 30. They know what they forgot about Instagram, haven't learned yet. Why don't we just like let them be our social media people? So we took like 8 of them, and we installed all our social accounts on their phones, and they take turns to run it, and said, "Don't even show us, just be yourselves." And it just that also just we had things that went viral with 250,000 uh, in views and things like that. We told them, as long as there's no profanity, stay family friendly, do whatever you want, and it just went so well.
Well, and what I absolutely love about that, because so often I tell people like your employees are smart, right? They're younger than you. They probably know tech better than you. They're probably on social media more than you. Just trust them and let them run. And so many people are like terrified of giving their employees that leeway and that leverage.
Best decision I've ever made. Even my marketing agency tells me, Amir, what they do, we would never be able to produce.
Yes, and that is an amazing thing. Let's get back into talking the tech and the systems because
Yep.
I want to make sure we hit on this because that is a huge part I feel like of what's allowed you guys to go to success. And so when we kind of left off on that piece, you said you'd been using Toast, you switched out of that, you were switching to SpotOn, you spent months trying to get this up and running, and then you did, because I know this from when we talked before, potentially one of the craziest things I've ever heard. You said I'm gonna pick Memorial Day weekend to switch my tech stack,
Yeah.
which is absolutely crazy. So, A, why would you do that? And B, how did it go?
So I know it was a crazy, crazy decision. I needed to see. I refused to start on a slow day because I wanted to stress test it.
Hmm.
And said, okay, if it work on a slow day, how do I know it's going to work on one of the busiest weekends? I know it doesn't make any sense, but I said, we're turning the switch on Memorial Day weekends. We've tested it for 4 weeks prior
Hmm.
extensively. And we had SpotOn come and train us, and we tried to break the system multiple times. And I was pretty darn confident that
Sure.
everything is going to work. But what gave me that confidence to actually say, okay, I am going to launch on Memorial Day weekend is the SpotOn team. And you can compare POSs and do tables, pros and cons, run features against features. But what really sets that company apart is the culture and its people. And I think this is why they're going to win this space by a long shot.
Yeah, and that is definitely true, right? Because it doesn't. I don't care if you have the best POS system in the world. If it breaks at 2 in the morning and nobody picks up the phone, it doesn't work, right?
So I can tell you. So here we go. So we go live on
Mhm.
Memorial Day weekend. The staff is like, Amir, you're fucking crazy for doing that. It's like, and it works well. And then at 9 p.m., we had an issue. 9 p.m. And it's like, what do we do? So guess what? We call our account executive, not even the support guy. We call the
Mhm.
guy that said, Blake, there's an issue. I said, don't worry. At 9 p.m., he's texting his support team and everything. It gives us in real time solutions. He put a couple of band-aids on it to get us through Memorial Day weekend. And then we figured that there was like a setting that we needed to change slightly. But Monday morning, we had a meeting, all hands with SpotOn. There were like 11 people from all the various departments
Mhm.
with us, just fine tuning everything. It was amazing. We've never had that. I've never had that with any software vendor, and I use a lot of vendors. I mean, that company has acquired a customer for life as of that day.
And so I know you use their POS system, but one of the things you mentioned that I think is really interesting is that you use a number of integrations and different pieces with them because, like we mentioned earlier, technology is great, right? But when it doesn't integrate, when your tech does not work together, it can make life really difficult.
Right. So, what I learned from the first go round with all these systems that are great systems, but my users or our staff did not enjoy using it. I say, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm not going to pick. You guys are going to pick. Here are the, so it's like we brought all these vendors to do demos, and like you're at the front of the house, at the back of the house. Inventory management, back of the house. Tell me, okay, 3 systems. Choose the one you like most. And Kira Bright, our kitchen manager, she
Mhm.
chose the inventory management system, and that's how we did. I let the staff pick the systems they liked best, and because first of all, because I let them pick it, they got the sense of ownership, and they were not only picking it. Now you're in charge of implementing,
Right.
and you're in charge of training your team with it. So that was how we achieved the buy-in, and that's why I think it went so smooth when we launched everything on Memorial Day weekend, because all these months that we spent implementing it, it wasn't me, it was them.
Well, and that may be one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard when it comes to technological adoption in the business. Because, in my experience, at least, a lot of, especially your servers and your managers, tend to be a little bit more flexible. But a lot of the people that work in hospitality really don't want it to be a job where they have to deal with a bunch of tech. And so, by forcing or having your managers pick that out, and now they're responsible for training it, and they know exactly how to communicate to the people under them, this is why we're doing what we're doing. I have to imagine that just made your life so much better and easier.
I'm telling you, not just so much better and easier. I mean, our team there is like a family, and
Mhm.
and I think a big part of it is because everybody gets a sense of belonging, accomplishment. Everybody put in something towards the success of this place. It wasn't just like, here are the systems that we chose. Now go learn how to use them. They chose the systems that we're using.
And so when we look at those integrations and kind of some things that you did, one thing I know, because you have an accounting background, I have an accounting background. And so when we were talking before, we were talking quite a bit or got into payroll a little bit. And one of the things you mentioned to me that I just thought was crazy is that in switching these systems, you calculated you were saving basically over 50 hours a month just on the
Right.
payroll side based on those integrations.
Yep.
So
Correct.
walk me through, how do you get 50 hours a month in saving in that integration between Spot On and payroll?
So SpotOn has, I don't know if everybody knows, but they have this system called teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
And teamwork is probably the most sophisticated tool I've ever seen in employee team management that I've ever witnessed. I mean, it's so incredibly powerful. I urge everybody to use it. Use it now. I cannot use anything else. And so, all the schedules are fed into Teams. Teams obviously connects to SpotOn, so it takes the shifts, um, pay, your pay rate, everything is synchronized. All the tips come into it. We'll talk about that in a minute too. And then all that is connected to Teams, is connected to our payroll system, Gusto, which we've switched also when we switched the tech stack. And then Gusto is connected to our accounting system, which is then connected to a reporting system called Reach. So then from the second a person pays all the way till I see it on the report, there's no human touch. In the past, we'd have to like print the report from the tip report from Toast, manually put it into 7 shifts, then manually put it into um, ADP,
Mm-hmm.
and then from ADP, manually put it in the accounting system. There was always a breakdown. And when you consider now that my operation is not just F&B, I have 3 other divisions, you can see how all this adds up to 54 hours a month in
Yeah.
saving. Not just, we've taken the system now and we've implemented it in all the other divisions. Everything gets fed into Gusto and accounting and Reach. So our payroll was, if you take 2 hours a day, just calculating tips at the end of the day, and then 6 hours every other week for
Mm-hmm.
payroll. We're literally down, when I tell people we're down from 6 hours to about a minute, they do not believe it. But that's the power of Teams and day check, which we can get into as well.
Yeah, and one thing that I just want to mention from the accounting end here, because I would hope you'd agree with me on this, but payroll is the number one thing people screw up from an accounting
Yeah.
perspective. It's the one of the hardest things to fix. Like if you have to pay a CPA to go and redo the reports and to fight that out with the government.
Forensic accounting, when it comes to payroll, are impossible. Not only that, there's liability taxes that you need
Yeah.
to recalculate. You're putting yourself at risk if it's not correct.
Yeah. So it's A, the most complicated thing, and B, the easiest thing to screw up. And C, in my mind at least, one of the most expensive things to pay a CPA or an EA or somebody to fix. So the fact that you can do it with no touch in a couple seconds and not have anyone potentially screwing up that data. Not only is that an efficiency on one side, that's a huge liability saver on the other side. Maintains your business health in a way that other systems just couldn't.
It's massive because, at the end, I can literally see day to day because Teams not only calculates all that, it actually shows me at the end of the shift what my, cost of labor was, what my cost of food was. And not only does it do that, when we we plug in our projections into Teams, so I can actually see, am I meeting my projections? Am I under? Am I over? And why? It's a massive, massive part of our success this past year.
So we're not only, let me get this right because I didn't realize this, but with that, you're not only then able to handle the back end and the administration of payroll and tips and all of that, but also get your analytics there so that you can see whether or not you're even hitting your goals, where you need to adjust. So it's beyond
Yep.
just the administration part of it, it's into the analysis and really setting you up to make proper decisions based upon your data.
So I can tell you in the morning, the system automatically sends me all that information. I get that
Mhm.
report every day. Then if I see any, it'll highlight certain things in red and green. And red obviously are things that I need to look at. And when
Mhm.
I look at it, if we don't meet our projections, it'll show me the previous day's number in red, obviously. And then I can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Mark, what happened here?" I say, "Oh, we had like such a rainy day and nobody wanted to come out." But you get the prompts to see how you do on a daily basis. It's great. It puts you. I don't have to wait till my bookkeeper gets me the numbers. I don't have
Yeah.
to just like on a daily basis. I know how well I'm doing.
Well,
I mean, and all these reports are fully automated.
and that's huge. And I think, I mean, it's one thing with you and I talking, right? knowing accounting, and we could sit down and do this all probably by hand if we wanted, not that we would ever want to. So for us, it's a time efficiency thing. But for folks without that kind of background, just having access to the data is something that is unique that they normally wouldn't have.
Totally. And SpotOn has other tools to assist
Hmm.
you with profit analysis and things like that. They have a tool called Profit Assist, which is an AI tool that plugs directly into your P&L and helps you identify areas that you're good at, areas that you're less good at. It's an incredible system that really simplifies. If you do not have an accounting background, you can still wrap your head around what's going on in your business
Well,
in
and
ways that I've never seen any other system does.
yeah,
Do.
and for everybody listening, just so that you know, Profit Assist with Spot On is Starfish. So Starfish has been one of our sponsors for a long time.
Okay.
But they got bought by Spot On. So it was
Yeah.
actually funny, right? Because I had two sponsors, Spot On and Starfish, and then one of my sponsors bought my other sponsor, which was
Yeah.
kind of works. But so if you guys have heard Jordan Silverman on the podcast in the past, he is Starfish. Starfish is Spot On Profit Assist. So this all kind of comes and connects
So
together.
Profit Assist is really cool, especially if you don't have accounting
Mhm.
background. Um, Obviously we take it to a whole different level with the reach reporting and create all these custom reports that I've shown you, um, last time we spoke. But I think if you're just starting small operation, even big operation, Profit Assist is a great tool to help you identify areas that you're doing well and areas that need to be looked at.
Absolutely. And we're running a little short on time. I have a feeling you
Yeah.
and I could sit here and talk about tech and accounting for days if we wanted to, but at some point I want to make sure that we're mindful of everybody else's time and we don't just
Yeah.
keep going. So real quick before we wrap up, we've talked about a lot of different things here, but going from a bar that is essentially a rundown shack on the water to now having a restaurant bar that is pushing huge volume and is huge in the wakeboard community and all these other things you've accomplished. What is kind of your number one thing that you would say to people that are, new in the business? What do they need to do in order to be able to do a turnaround like that or just to achieve success?
Well, to me, it boils down to the people that work for you
Mhm.
and the people that work for the vendors you choose to work with. So obviously, I'm really proud of the team that we have. I don't think we would be where we are without them,
Mhm.
but I can very confidently say that we wouldn't be where we are without the people that work for SpotOn. Because when we needed them, and when we do need them, they're there for us. And I can tell you, it's like when you get like out of the blue an email from the founder of SpotOn and just say, "Hey, I heard about your restaurant, and if there's anything I can personally ever do for you, here's my email." Wow, out of the blue. I don't know the guy.
No, that
It shows me what type of culture they're cultivating in that company,
Mhm.
and it's just great. It's a great company to work with.
Now, for anybody that's listening to this and they're like, hey, this all sounds cool. I kind of want to go check this place out. Where can people go to learn more about Mud Puppies and your resort and come over and experience what you guys are doing?
So they can go to mudpuppyrestaurant.com to see the website for the Mud Puppy, or CherokeeOutdoorResort.com to see the entire resort. Come and stay. Come check us out. Look me up if you come. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to chat and learn more and share experiences. I always love to meet other restaurant owners and learn from others. It's how I grow, and I'm always happy to share what we do. Our director of F&B, his name is Vegas. He's always at the Mud Puppy. You can go and look him up. Happy to chat with anyone.
Awesome. So we'll put, if you're listening, you can scroll down in the show notes. We'll have all those links there for you. We'll also have links for Spot On and how to get in contact with them. With that, Amir, is there anything else you want to add that we have not touched on so far? This.
Yeah, I want to just add that, we did talk a little bit about tips, but,
Mhm.
SpotOn release Day Check,
Okay.
which we use. We were actually one of the first to try it out because we have such a large staff, and that's how we paid our servers daily. And that has been a game changer for us in attracting the best servers because we're able to pay them Before they get home, the money hits their account.
Well, that's huge, right? Because that's
Yeah.
to me, when I talk to people that are in the industry now, their number one complaint is, 10 years ago, I got cash in my pocket every day when I left work. And now I got to wait a week or two till my tips get paid out on my check.
Not anymore. Not with us.
And that is awesome. And what was the name of that again?
Day check. That's
Okay.
from SpotOn.
Yeah. So that's a definitely, I would say, if you're using SpotOn, use that, because people, to your point, love getting paid the same day.
It's a game changer. Not only that, and obviously it calculates all the taxes as well and feeds it to your payroll system. It's just, you don't have to do any tip calculations. It's unbelievable.
Awesome. Amir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
sharing
me.
your
Really
story.
enjoyed it. Hope to do it again.
Absolutely. Anytime you want. And hopefully this gives people some ideas on how to grow and develop a restaurant from scratch and implement the right tools in order to get there. That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.